In this video, we're going to be going over how to make a pinch pot using air dry clay. We're going to start by wedging the clay. This is to get out any air bubbles that may have formed. It's also a good way to soften and ensure that there's enough moisture in the clay to get started. So you can see at the beginning I'm throwing the clay. This is quite loud. And then I'm using the heel of my hand to press and push the clay to ensure that I can get it all out. Here it is from another angle, so you can see I'm pressing in with the heel of my hand, pushing it in, trying to get all the air bubbles out, which helps make the clay stronger so that it can dry well and support itself. Now, one of the ways that we add moisture to clay is the use of slip. Slip is just leftover bits of clay blended with water. So depending on the state of the bucket when you get it, you might have to mix up your hands like I'm doing here. Yes, it is very gross. It's also surprisingly satisfying. And you're going to be using that slip to add moisture, but also to connect various pieces and fix in cracks and little holes that might form. So it's really important to have a good bucket of well-mixed slip that's not too watery and kind of still sticky enough. So to build a pinch pot, the first thing you need to do is you need to make a ball or a sphere. So you should start with forming a rough sphere, and then you're going to want to roll it. And you can see here that I'm rolling it between my hands. I'm finding it easier to roll between my hands because I have a little bit of too much moisture, and here doing it on the table, it slips around a little bit. So I'm finding it a little bit easier in my hands, which is why I've gone back to that. But I'm rolling it. Now the video is playing at double speed right now, which is why my hands look like they're moving that fast, but you do actually have to go quite quickly to provide even pressure across the whole thing. So I'm taking the time to smooth it now with my hands to ensure that the sphere is as smooth as possible. This is going to give me a good starting point. Now to build the pinch pot, once you have your sphere, you want to press your thumb into the center of it. And then using your thumb and your fingers, you want to pinch out the sides so that it can build the side walls. Now it's really important that as you continue to pinch the sides, they don't get too thin. Generally with air dry clay, you don't want it to get thinner than about 1 centimeter. And if you don't know what 1 centimeter is, for most people it's about the width of your baby fingernail, which is a good kind of mark that you can check if you're doing it right. So as you can see, I'm using my fingers just to pinch out the sides. Some areas are getting too thin, so I'll add in extra clay as I need to, but I want to make sure that they're roughly even and as smooth as possible. Now one of the ways that I'm going to be able to smooth them is that I'll start using tools in a minute to help me do that, but I'm starting with just my finger, trying to form it as best as I can, both on the table to ensure that there's a flat bottom of my pot, but also from different angles by holding it up in the air, just squeezing along, applying even pressure on all the sides and making sure it's as smooth as possible. Now, the first tool I'm going to use is called a rib, and a rib is just a kind of a wedge of wood, and it's got smooth edges, and I'm going to use just to clean up the outside edges and the inside, just smoothing along, trying to get a consistent surface across my pot, because that's what I want for my pinch pot. By using these tools, I can get there in a way that my hands just can't do it by themselves. Now you can see that the video seems to be going slower now. It's not actually going slower. I'm really being patient and taking my time with this, so that even though the video is being played at double speed, you can see that I'm really being cautious and taking my time as I work this out. You'll also notice that as I get a little bit of clay residue built up on the rib, I'm taking it and throwing it back into the slip bucket. That's how we make more slip, by just putting the little bits and pieces back in the buckets. Now the last thing I want to do is I want to use this loop tool, which is kind of a wire section that allows me to scrape off sections of clay. And I'm just doing that so I can flatten the edges. I'm not trying to put any pressure, I'm not trying to squish them down. I just want to remove the excess so that it is a roughly even surface on the top of my pinch pot. And once I'm happy with it, you can see I'm using my fingers to smooth the edges, make sure nothing is rough or too hard, so that as it dries, it's got a nice, soft, smooth edge. I've twisted it off to the table, and there you go. There's my pinch pot. It's very basic. You can expand it as much as you want to. by adding in more detail with other tools. But this is a good simple pinch pot that is a standard of any artist's toolkit.